Welcome to Try Not to Overthink It, where we explore the intricate landscape of mental health, well-being, and everyday life. I'm RJ.
I'm Unique.
And I'm Khalil.
Join us as we dive into insightful conversations, expert perspectives, and personal stories that shed light on the various dimensions of mental wellness. Whether you're seeking guidance, inspiration, or a deeper understanding of the human mind, this podcast is your safe space to engage, learn, and navigate the journey to a happier, healthier self. So today we are talking about cultural awareness. So this conversation kind of stemmed from something that was all over social media not too long ago, from the show Love and Hip Hop, Atlanta. And so essentially what happened on the episode, two of the stars on the show got into an argument, and then one of the other stars called the other young lady a monkey. Because the woman happened to be black and darker skinned, it sparked a huge outcry, and eventually the other young lady that called her the name got put off the show or fired from the show, and then started losing roles and positions and other things that she was involved in. And so it sparked a conversation for people who are not African American in regards to what's appropriate and what's not appropriate in regards to when you are speaking about someone or talking to someone. So for me, having been a person that has traveled all over the world, and met different people and have had opportunities to engage with other people from different cultures, culture is something that you cannot put a price on, and you can't overstate how important it is to the people that it is applied to, or that are a part of that particular culture. I think that for some of us, we live in a day and age where we tend to take things for granted, and we tend to get out of pocket with the way that we talk about people and the things that we think are funny. And everything is not really funny. It's not that funny. I mean, it's not cute. It's not funny. And the things that we say that we intend to be jest, or that we tend to make light of, to those people that it applies to, it's not funny. It's not cute. It's not a jest to them. So I thought it was important for us to talk about that, given that we are African American and that our culture is very diverse and large. I thought it was important that we talk about it on our platform today. So what do you guys think?
Well, look, the funniest thing is, right, I was just having a conversation with my neighbor who is white, and we were talking about some of the areas here that are very old school. Let's just use that word, right? Because I would use another word, but it'd be inappropriate. And segregation was very difficult for the South. And the funniest thing is talking to him about certain areas here where I live at, where African Americans don't go. It was funny because when I was speaking to him, he didn't say African American. He didn't say Negro. He's like, well, some people wouldn't want to go there. And he said, I just thought that was crazy because he's not from the South. So he said it was very difficult for me to understand that, Black people won't go to this area in Alabama. And so for me, of course I said African American. That's the word I used. And being culturally aware that he doesn't probably have many African American friends.
He has you.
Right. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's worked in the military, so he's definitely had African Americans he had to deal with. But the issue was when we were talking about why these certain places don't have a large population of African Americans. One thing I said is, especially as an African American, I really wouldn't want to be there because it was in the mountains anywhere. I mean, anyway, it's a mountainous area, right? You need to have a 4x4 if you live out there. And RJ knows where I'm talking about, off of 65 in Coleman. Why should I hang out there anyway? I'm not going to see many of me out there.
Let's be real. You need more than that. You might need a little gun, a bow and arrow. Just because of the creatures that's going to be out there.
They got creatures that live out there in that area. You know what I'm saying? I got to be, you got to carry.
You got to contend with the four-legged and the slitheries. Yeah,
right.
things that slither on the ground.
I don't want to be in the elements. So I was explaining that to him anyway. I was like, the funniest thing is it really doesn't upset me because being an African-American gentleman from the city, I don't want to live out there in that part anyway. That's not where I would want to hang. It doesn't have the resources that I would want. So, I don't take offense when people be like, oh, well, you guys don't go there. I don't want to go there. That's what I let him know that, and yeah, it's messed up culturally that you should only stick in one area. There's nothing I want there anyway. You know what I mean? So I don't take offense to it, but the one problem I do take offense to is calling people out of their names, because I try my hardest not to call the Asian man out of his name, the African man out of his name, the Hispanic man out of his name, the Ukrainian, the Russian. I want to call you for who you are. Your name's Bob. I'm gonna call you Bob. I don't want to call you out of your name. I don't find any pleasure in doing that. You meet people and that Chinaman or that. No, there's no reason for me to talk to you like that. What is your name? And I'm gonna call you by your name.
Exactly.
And I shouldn't have to say anything about your culture because I don't know your culture. And until I sit down and spend 5 or 6 years hanging out in your culture and speaking with you and interacting with you, I can't judge you anyway. That's just how.
Well,
you touched on. Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, I mean, unless you Asian and like you believe in the Chinese calendar, probably calling anybody an animal name in any culture is going to be seen as a downgrade, right? Because my little knowledge of the Chinese calendar, every year they get an animal that represents the year, right?
Mhm.
And there's certain attributes that are given, whether it's the monkey, the rat, the dragon.
I'm a horse.
Are we still in
I'm a
the year of
horse.
the dragon? See, yeah, I mean, so
Mhm.
it would not be offensive to say, well, he was born in the year of the horse. That's why he behaves in that manner. With the zodiacs, I think in that context, yeah, talking about somebody. But I
A
think to
monkey,
mean
right?
anything
Somebody's a monkey,
in a
right?
derogatory term, like if you're saying it with ill intent, I don't care how much you know about a culture or how much you may have think, well, in my culture, yeah, but it's derogatory. And we just gotta be honest. This derogatory thing to everybody's culture. Nobody's
Hey,
culture is on the up and up. All of us have nasty terminology, and be sensitive enough to say, like Khalil said, if I don't know, let me not speak on it because I'm gonna be putting my foot in my mouth. So sis was wrong, and I think she deserved to lose whatever funding she had. She
endorsements.
deserved it because it was endorsements. It was derogatory,
Mhm.
and it was misplaced. There's no culture, like I said, outside of the Asian culture and referencing the year you were born,
Mhm.
Mhm.
right? Outside of that context, I don't know no culture that it's okay to call somebody that of an animal.
Right.
Yeah, and I
You're
think
a
that
heifer. That's never okay.
both of you guys speak to the same thing about respect. Like
Yeah.
ultimately, when it comes to understanding and valuing another person's culture, you have to start off with being respectful.
Yeah,
You
bottom
lead
line.
you lead with respect because you commanded in return. If in reciprocity, if I was wanting respect, I got to give that. And I
Right.
think that in that situation, not understanding someone else's culture, not really understanding that the connotation that term has associated with people of that particular culture or that particular race, it you saying that causes so much damage. And then for me, like do I like do I think that it's ever appropriate to ever respond to somebody like that? No, it's not. But again, we live in a day and age, and me and Unique have had this conversation off camera before. We live in a day and age where we're so loose with the way we play with things, where we have no respect for one another. We don't value one another. So we live in a day and age where we've made it appropriate to joke and to make comments about people that are inappropriate and not and in ways that are not appropriate to that person. Like and it just gets to the point to where we've made it almost acceptable for people to play with other people's cultures.
Right.
Like I remember I subscribed to this guy on YouTube. And so he was talking about how this adult film star, she's hit the wall. And so she's retired from making adult films. and now she's trying to live a normal life. And it's hard out here, dating and being taken seriously when you've made all of these adult films. So she's made all these adult films, and one particular block of adult films that she made was her being an actress in those films, and she's wearing hijab. So you're wearing a hijab and you're in these films acting these things out and not recognizing that not only did you embarrass yourself, but you embarrassed a whole group of people, because you're playing with their culture and you're playing with their religion. And so not only are you
misrepresentation of it.
Right.
Exactly. But the thing is, like I said, we live in a day and age where there is no respect. Like, there's no lines anymore of, this is a line I'm not willing to cross. This is a line this is something I'm hard, fast. I'm not willing to go past this. And so, like, for me, when you're, go ahead.
No. Go finish your stuff.
When you've made several movies dressed up like that, I'm sorry, ma'am. Like, at that point,
now I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, when you've made several movies like that.
Too. I think she's from DC.
When you've made several movies like that, it's like, ma'am, you don't get to play with. There's certain things you don't play with, and that, like, someone's culture, you don't do that. And so like I said, we live in a day and age where we've made it easy for people to play with culture, play with people's religion.
I'm about to say, Khalil, you ready to get tagged in? Because me and Khalil be on the Rura. Khalil, right. I'm about to tag you in. Hold on, Khalil.
Sure.
I'm about to tag you in. Okay. Raja, he told the midline for us, so I'm about to throw it to a polar opposite.
It's been a good balance.
From the inception of people on this dear continent that we live on, we've misappropriated things and taken them to be our own. And so I think, and I think it's a plus and a minus for our country, right? It's a melting pot. Mm-hmm. The danger of having a melting pot is that things melt. Mm-hmm. When something melts, it merges and it formulates in, so the structure doesn't hold the same relevance that it did before. But when we say we're not a melting pot, but we are a conglomerate, we are a basket of sorts, an interwoven, culturally diverse nation, then that says, I appreciate your differences. But I think in America, and I'm not talking about white versus black, I'm just talking about the American way, is assimilate or die.
Yeah.
And so if you're not assimilating, then you will suffer in this country. And so that means we can't take anything seriously, because if it's not the American way, which is God, the flag, and 4 trucks, then baby, that in football, I'm gonna take out 4 trucks football. God, faith in football, baby. If you don't subscribe to them things, what are you even doing in this country? And so everything else becomes a blur. Like, my traditions don't matter as much. My food I don't see it, right? If I don't see it in, like, the faith, the fellowship, and the football, and then, hey, it starts to become not important. So other people deem it as, well, it ain't important to the masses. It must not be important. Right? You see the little skulls, the Mexican skulls. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that's all about, but I'm pretty sure it's a big deal. You see them things for Taco Tuesday night.
Right.
At any given Mexican restaurant in America.
Exactly.
And those things really do mean something. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You see the little painted skull, like, with the drawings on it. I watched the Disney movie. Yeah, I watched the Disney movie, and they talked about the meaning a little bit. Disney be sprinkling a little history for the kids. Yeah. But I didn't know that how
the Day of the Dead Skulls.
The Day of the Dead Skulls. I just thought that was a decoration.
Yeah. Hey, well, you know what? Until I went, I had already heard this, but until I went to Italy myself, I saw how much the Italian had to assimilate in America. Their food is completely different. Their pizza, the margarita pizza, is nothing like the pizza we eat here. The Chinese, all their foods or have been changed to assimilate into our culture to make
It ain't
us
no,
happy.
it ain't no orange chicken and General Tso's chicken.
No, they don't
Those
have
things
that.
don't exist.
Yes, none of that stuff exists. Yeah, just knowing, especially our history here, the Native Americans. How funny is this? That most of the United States, all right, are named after Native American tribes, right? But when you do your history, we were at war with the Native Americans. So what I'm saying is we have to look at these things, assimilate or die. So there is no cultural appreciation really if you don't assimilate, right? Well, they're going to kill you off, and that's where Frantz Fanon got upset about it because he was like, "Hey, that causes a level of cognitive dissonance in someone from somewhere else because they're told that you're not good, but if you do this, we'll accept you, but you're still not up to our standards. So, how crazy are you going to be?" That affects me mentally because we're all the same. We're all one blood. You know what I'm saying? Junior Reid told you that in a little song, my man, a little reggae song, One Blood. Why are we acting as if, our cultures aren't relevant? They're not important. Everybody should be celebrated for their different cultures. The German, the Hispanic.
Look, I'm going to tell you this. Everybody want to be black until it's time to be black.
Well, yeah, we see that.
And I learned and going to different countries. I'm not just talking about being in America. In different countries, every country got a little black in them. Everybody. And it's all cool and good to be black until it's time to be black. I remember I was in Peru. The people who had darker skin, they got isolated to an island.
Living in the mountains.
That looked like me and Khalil, right? Roger Mel, he got to live. He got to live in Lima. Okay? The dark-skinned folk, right? They got pushed out. And so I think, and you hear it a lot of times with, and I'm gonna call some names. The Latino brothers and sisters, right? The Dominicans, the Puerto Ricans,
the Brazilians,
Cubans. Yep. It's all cute and fun and dandy to have a big butt, the big hips, the full lips, and they like the curly hair. It's cute to be black then, and they like to say the N-word. It's cute because you can pass, right? Until it's time to be black. Oh, I'm Dominican.
Yep.
I'm this. I'm that. I'm Panamanian. And you
you have those people that that they experience colorism, and that was one of the things that one of the other females that's on Love and Hip Hop. She's on Miami, and she's a dark skinned Hispanic woman, and so her name is Amara La Negra, and so one of the other cast members was like
the black. The black.
So she's just like, what do you claim that you're black, but what do you know about the black culture? She didn't know anything. She was just quiet. She's just sitting there. And I mean, for me, my thing is, like I said before, like I'm all for people, because we get into the stereotypes too, because she walks around with this giant wig on, this giant Afro wig. And so, when I first saw that, I was like, that's a fake wig. And my homegirl didn't believe me that it was fake until one of her friends that's on the show was like, that wig, that called her wig a Party City wig. But, because I'm like, when she shakes her head, it doesn't move. It's just like one solid mass. It doesn't move. So so I'm like, yeah, that's a prop.
Costume. On. Just like your blackness, you put that on.
And so, for me, I'm all for you embracing our culture, but there's the good and the bad that comes along with the culture. Like, you can't just hop in the culture, and then benefit from get the benefits and then jump out when it's no longer convenient for you. And that's where, like I said earlier, we've made it so easy for people to do that, where you'll have people like the Catch Me Outside girl. I can't even remember what her name is, where people were going at her because, oh, you're talking urban. But my thing is, again,
and she was tan. I'm like, where's this playing from?
Exactly. And that's where, like for some of them, like with her, she's out here tanning herself and then tanning herself and tanning herself until she's about my skin tone color. And people called her out for doing that. And, you know, my thing is, like I said before, like, again, culture is meant to be appreciated, it's meant to be observed, it's meant to be, you know, participated in, because again,
participated in.
But when we want to pick and choose the parts that look cool and look fancy, and then we want to make fun of other people, you know, like I remember,
make fun of the parts that we don't understand.
Yeah, like I had a friend one time. We worked at the hospital together, and she's of course Caucasian, and she called this one of our coworkers ghetto, and so I was like, "What did you just say?" Yeah, she just acts so ghetto. I was like, okay, we gonna have to not be friends anymore. I was like, because she had did that before, and I told her that's not, I'm not okay with that. And so I was like, what makes her ghetto? Well, just the way she's acting. I said, have you ever been to the ghetto before? Well, no.
Right.
Oh, I said, so you're
true definition of ghetto and where ghettos started and who they used to put in ghettos didn't look like us.
And so for me, it goes back to, you know, the thing of, like, you know, another part of cultural awareness is dispelling stereotypes. You know, the problem for most of us nowadays is we don't bother to educate ourselves. We don't bother to educate ourselves. And so we just perpetuate stereotypes that all people that look like us are from the ghetto, or that we're hood, or that we're, you know, ratchet, you know, or all African American men are dangerous and we're thugs and we're gangsters, and all African American women are loud and belligerent and aggressive and don't want to be told nothing. Right. You know, and so for me,
I'm kidding.
But when you look at the ways that we are depicted on television and movies, which is what most people perceive their knowledge base from,
and in music.
Right.
That's how we're depicted. We're depicted as those things. We're like depicted as those things.
Like our women twerk for no reason, just be in the mirror twerking for no reason. That's what
and for me,
everybody can twerk and they can't.
Right.
And for me, that's the part where, again, like, you know, when it comes to things like cultural awareness, it's a two-sided coin. There's the part where people have to educate themselves about our culture, but there's also the part where we have to educate other people about our culture.
Right.
You know, dispel those stereotypes and say, hey, some of us do that, but not all of us do that.
Right.
You know,
a lot of people, I think, have that confusion, right? Like when I went to Mexico this year, you know, I thought Mexicans, especially the ones that I knew from like Central America, I figured they were all similar or whatever like that. And so going to Mexico, it was kind of like the Caribbean. They were so laid back. Seeing people who were from Latin descent here from Central America and Mexico, growing up in Maryland and DC, it was almost night and day. Like these people in Mexico, they were like the Caribbean folk. They were laid back. Ain't nobody working those 2-3 jobs. That's a stereotype from here, bro. Them people were chilling. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they were laid back down to earth. You know what I mean?
Because here you assimilate or die.
Yeah. You assimilate or die. You got to work.
It's a different culture.
Work you to death in America. Folks ain't like that. They're not like that.
That's the American way.
Right.
Yeah, you gotta work. You work to get the life of a person, this fictional character, in someone else's mind, not even yours. Because I gotta be better than. Better than what? If we're all being better than the fictional person in the next person's mind, how we will know if we get there? Did he change his mind?
It might change tomorrow. It might not be the same thing.
I don't know, because it's in somebody else's mind. Did I choose the right somebody? Did I imprint on the right somebody? I don't know. You just never know. You never know in this country. God bless us. God bless us, because the other countries have started to change just their economic systems just to be able to trade with us. And so I'm not just talking about race, because people hear, y'all just talking about race. It's not that. It's different countries have, in order to function and operate on American time, right? We're talking about countries who had siestas. Other countries notoriously believe in breaks and holidays, Italy. Have different holidays than us. And in order to compete with America, they will work on a time frame that we set, just so that they can be compatible. And that's
Right.
not a part of their ego structure. And I think just being able to, when I do visit other countries, I fully immerse myself in whatever they have going on, as long as that allows me to still honor my religious beliefs. Um, Granted, like my diet and stuff like that. When I go, I try my best to speak in their language. If I have to use Google Translator, and I know I butcher it, but I at least want to try. I at least
Hmm.
want to show, hey, I'm honoring that I'm in your space. I don't
Right.
ask you to speak English. Now, if you speak it, hey, great, great.
Right. Right.
Do
Hablo
you
español.
speak English?
Hablo
Right,
inglés.
you speak English? Great, we're gonna talk. When
Right.
I've gone to other countries, their holidays, I don't try to formulate that they're American holidays. No, they're gonna celebrate their holiday in a way that is special to them, and I want to be able to participate. I asked the natives, hey, how do y'all celebrate this? I think one of the best things my parents could have done while they didn't move us to a different country, we left Baltimore and we moved down south. And I think that was the best thing my parents could have done for us, because it's a different way of living. If you ever lived on the East Coast and then you move down south, it's
Right.
just or vice versa. It's a totally different way of living. So at an early age, we had to learn how to navigate a cultural space that didn't replicate what we grew up in. And
Right.
so different mannerisms, and there was some pushback. I experienced culture shock, because I was like, oh, they don't move like that here. This is weird. This is
Hmm.
different,
Oh,
right?
you can't rush nobody in here in Alabama. If I try to
Yeah,
rush somebody, they'll look at you and say, "Boy, you crazy. Black, white, yellow,
yeah,
they not
yeah.
running for you."
You,
Out
you
here,
just, it was a different world, right? Business
right.
is different. It's about the who you know society down south. You can
Hmm.
have the pedigree. You can go to Harvard. That don't matter. If I want to hire my nephew, I'm hiring my nephew.
Yeah, there's a lot more
Okay.
nepotism here. Yeah,
Or just my
right.
neighbor's nephew. My neighbor, I know my neighbor for 20 years. I don't know you. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna hire my neighbor's nephew. Period. Because I
even if
know
he is
him.
still,
I know,
even if
right.
he's, even if he is
I
the
know
drunk,
all his people in them. It's about the relationship building. So I
yes,
think
relationships are
when you
valued.
go to, yeah, when you go to a different culture, sometimes respect looks like just shutting your mouth,
Hmm.
right? Shut up. If you don't know what to say, like the old folks say, don't say nothing at all.
Right.
Just, hey, speak towards yourself. I'm gonna use the young lady. If she was offended by the other young lady, the dark skinned woman, the Latino woman was offended by the black woman. I'm gonna just use, because I don't know her culture. I think she's Caribbean or something, right? Like the Latino woman was offended by the Caribbean woman. She could have easily just spoke to herself and said, "I am offended by your presentation, and I'm gonna dismiss myself."
Right. Right.
In her verbiage, she was trying to control the other woman by being demeaning.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
always just in the wrong. So I think first step in talking about appreciating someone else's culture is learning when to shut the heck up.
The hell up, because you don't know
That's
nothing about
it. Just shut up and give yourself an opportunity to learn a little something. If you're offended, figure out why you're offended. Offense is a personal problem. That is not on the
Hmm.
other person. That is a you problem if you're offended. So you need to check in. Why did that offend me? Did that offend something in my culture? And then so now you have an opportunity, if you shut up and learn, to educate somebody else. Hey, look, we don't say that, right?
it. Hmm.
I've been called the N word by a white person, and it was a kid. We were both kids. And I was like, that's not, we don't say that over here. I don't know who
Right.
else you talking to like that, but we don't say that over here. Nah, that ain't gonna work. And I'm sure in her home there are certain things that she just wouldn't like to be called. But I
Yeah.
had to give a little grace to say, you know what? Let me use this instead of being so defensive and explosive. But let me use this as a moment to educate and then to learn about her too. Why did you think that that was okay to say something like that?
Right.
Now, I
Right.
didn't
Why
have that
does it
conversation
come
with
out
her
your
because
mouth?
she was, yeah, but I think if you're looking to build relationship, you can learn a lot by being quiet first and then coming back hey, I didn't appreciate that, or just dismissing yourself.
Well,
I
look,
already
this
see
is a great
you're not
time
right.
for cultural appreciation right now, especially living in America and being on the outside looking in the in the Israeli Gaza Strip, you know what I mean, conflict with Palestine, right? This has been going on for ages, right? And it's like we're on the outside looking in. Well, you got to be culturally aware of what's going on. Everybody wants to pick a side, and I was telling a coworker, I was like, you really need to look into your history. You need to really see what has gone on since the late 1800s until now. You get what I'm saying? In order for you to be abreast on what you're judging, because we can't
Hmm.
judge from being on the outside. You really have to know the intricacies that's taking place between these two cultures. And a lot of it's biblical as well. So you really have to catch the knowledge
Hmm.
into order to really know. And for me, being able to, encourage people to do that studying and kind of do your research, has been good for me. But at the same time, being neutral in a conflict like that and not trying to pick sides, is difficult. And because people come up to me all the time, what do you think about that? And then, they have this mindset about Jewish people. You get what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And they've
Hmm.
had it, but it's a stereotypical mindset. You know what I
No,
mean?
you're not
And so,
until you can't understand a Jew till you become a Jew. You walk a day in their
unless you're a
shoes.
Hebrew, right?
I'm not Jewish. I don't know.
So, right,
I don't move like the Jewish people. I'm not Palestinian.
right. And so I'm
I
not
don't
Palestinian.
know. They're
Exactly.
gonna do whatever that's best for them. They're gonna rock out how they gotta rock
Right.
out.
Thank you.
I
So,
mean, so
but
it goes.
everybody wants to have a judgment on that. I'm like, how can you?
You can't. I mean, it goes back to what you guys were talking about earlier about respect for other people's differences. You have to
Right.
respect people enough to where you take the time to learn about them before you speak on them.
Hmm.
We
Exactly.
don't nowadays. We don't do that.
Nope.
You're different. You're different from me, and because you're different from me, I'm just making assumptions or based off of what I've heard about you or what I've seen about you on television and movies and in songs. That's how I'm operating around you. I mean, I remember being in
Yeah.
graduate school, and we were in graduate school. And we were taking a class on counseling diverse populations, and so Dr. Holloway, who taught the class, had us watch the movie Crash. And so when you
God
watch the
bless
movie,
Dr.
Mhm.
Holloway.
when you watch the movie Crash and you take
It's a
out
good movie.
who's in the movie and what they're doing, and you're just looking at the movie for itself,
Right.
there's stereotype after stereotype after stereotype after
Yes.
stereotype.
Whole things about stereotypes.
And so I mean the thing about it though
Basketball
is
players, everybody, famous people.
it
Everybody.
it just got to a point to where that is how we operate in the world is based
Mhm.
off of not based off of our personal experience with people,
Experience.
because most people's stereotypes are second, third, or fourth. It's never firsthand experience. Like I experienced this dealing with this type of person. So like an example that stood out to me was Ludacris and Lorenz Tate. They're walking on the sidewalk and Brendan Fraser and Sandra Bullock are walking towards them on this side of the sidewalk. And so as they're walking past each other, she sees them, they see her, she gets closer to her husband.
Right.
Ludacris goes on a whole diatribe about how this Caucasian woman immediately got colder when she saw two black men walking towards
Right.
them.
Clutching her purse and all that. Yeah.
Clutching her purse and holding closer to her husband. She immediately got colder. You then see them cut to them robbing them.
Yeah.
So where her stereotype was just based off of what other people told her, it is now reinforced by the actions of the people that she thought was going to do that. And so for me,
Mhm.
Her worst fear came.
do we all move in those spaces? No. But that is where, like I said, we have to give, like Unique said, grace and mercy enough to be willing to educate people. Because like to me, I, as a person that is, has experienced a lot of different cultures and been around a lot of different people, I have to check people all the time. Because people will say things and don't realize that it's offensive.
Right.
Or they'll say things and you can tell, because there's a difference between someone who maliciously is trying to say something or do something versus someone doing something from ignorance. Ignorance is absence of knowledge, and most people confuse that with stupidity. Stupidity is having the knowledge and choosing to not do anything with it.
Right.
So for most of us, we operate from the space of ignorance. We didn't know that was offensive. We didn't know doing that was offensive or would be taken a certain way. And so for me, when you operate from a space of grace and mercy, you operate from a space of, I recognize that what you said was offensive in that moment, or what you did was offensive in that moment. But let me take the time to better educate you so that the next time you run into somebody that looks like me or me again, you don't make that same mistake, because everyone's not going to give you that grace and mercy.
Right.
You'd have been an offended somebody socking you out. You know, so everyone is not going to have the conversation I'm having with you, a conversation of education. It's going to be a conversation of confrontation at that point.
Yeah.
And so for most of us operating from that, go ahead.
At that point, your apology game has to be strong, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Learning how to apologize, saying, well, I didn't mean to, but you did. It was offensive. Just because I didn't mean to hurt your toe when I stepped on it doesn't mean you didn't hurt my toe, right?
Yeah.
So learning how to apologize. When I brought it up to you, it shouldn't be, well, I didn't mean to offend you. Hey, I realized what I said. You shared that it was offensive. I apologize. I'm not going to do that anymore. It's hard to fight somebody after that. It's hard to be confrontational with a person when they say, you know what? Thank you for sharing that with me. I ain't doing that no more. My bad.
But many people aren't going to admit that they're wrong. That's
Heck
people
no.
that die on that hill, which is
Heck no.
crazy. I mean,
Or
you know,
that, or they'll start listing off all the
justification.
the friends of color that they have. That's what makes them
Right. They'll try to justify
racist.
their behavior. That's
And
justification. There's no reason.
And that's what I had to explain to my former coworker when I told her, I was like, hey, I can't associate with you anymore. I said, because I've told you before that referring to a person of color as ghetto or ratchet, that's offensive. And then you did it again. Well, I have all these black friends that succeed. Now, just stop talking.
So now you're a racist. Now
I said, just
racist.
And I had to tell her, just stop talking. Just stop talking. I said, because when you're having to justify your behavior,
you shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah.
Like, all right, for Unique, you understand. All right. If you go to Baltimore, there's certain areas, right? Like in Pigtown and different areas. I had to do a job in Pigtown back in the day, right? These areas are notorious for lower class or lower income Caucasians. There's hardly any black people. I'm just saying, these people in this area, just like when you go certain parts of Queens, right? There's Italian areas that are low income. But in these places, these people are operating from a standpoint that, hey, I don't have a lot of money. I'm not. The education level's only at a certain level.
A lot lower.
All right, and some of them are dressed according to that culture that they're in. If you went there, you would say, man, dude got his pants sagging off his feet.
Or he wearing an overall.
Cornrow.
Listen,
you know,
or he's wearing overalls in Pigtown.
Right.
In 2023. He's got on overalls, baby. And he may or may not have on shoes.
And he made it because of how that area came to be. You'd have to do the history. That was where they had the little meat packing plants and slaughterhouses and stuff like that, and it was a working class area. But what I'm saying,
your good fish markets was over there.
Yeah, but when we see this, what am I going to say? Oh, y'all ghetto. People aren't going to say that about
this
them.
Is the culture, right? That's their
culture, and it's a little, but that's when you have to use your mind. If I'm not going to say that to him, why am I going to say it to another young lady that I see? All right, if we go on the west side of Baltimore, all right,
it's a little
different. Has melanin, all right, and they're doing the same exact thing, same education level. Why am I going to use that word to convey who she is, or use that to say this is who she is?
I think we talked about it. We talked about it on a different episode, right? I loved your "you" in confused. It was very Baltimore-esque. Confused. It was very Baltimore-esque. I love the cultural appreciation of our vernacular, Khalil.
Right.
But in another episode, we talked about the capacity at which people operate. If you are operating in the confines of your culture, then there are going to be certain things that your capacity that you have room for. And in another person's culture, there may be zero capacity for that, right? I grew up in a very a Christian, I just say a Christian home, for lack of better words. Okay, grew up in a Christian home.
Mm-hmm.
My Christian home, my Christian upbringing was a lot more selective than another type of Christian's upbringing. Right?
Mhm.
Somebody may come in and say, "Y'all couldn't do nothing. Oh my gosh, y'all was just God. How did you survive it?"
Yeah,
But
Adventists.
I
Adventists don't
grew
play.
up. I grew up with the understanding that this is the capacity for which I operate, right? So I didn't feel like I missed out on anything. People are like, "Oh, you missed out. You didn't get to do this. You didn't get to do that." No, I mean, I was doing things that my religious group allowed. Like that was my culture, and now still I am still a part of that religious body, and so I operate within those confines. Now there are people who are like, "Oh, I hate it. All we do is this, all we do is that." And I look at them and say, "But you're comparing our religion to that of someone else's." And so you're looking at a different experience. Their capacity, what they may allow over there, it's going to be different from what we'll allow over here, right?
Exactly.
They're apples and oranges. I'm not looking for it to do that. So when my church says, "Oh, when you come to our bodies of worship, you got to look a certain way." Now,
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a pendulum swing, and I teeter on almost not acceptable. Okay,
Yeah, they.
I think that's just the rebel in me.
Rebellious.
I teeter on not acceptable, right? But I still operate. There are certain things where I'm very, very uh staunch on my belief system with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see anything wrong with it. I just don't. And I don't try to make it something that it's not. I know in my faith, interrelationships with other genders is a very big thing, right? You hug, you
Mm-hmm.
embrace.
Mhm.
It's nothing to grow up and go from elementary school to college and you've known these people your entire life. So I'm gonna hug you as if you're a family. I'm gonna approach you like I've known you my whole life because I've gone through education systems from pre-K to college and I still go to church with you. That's very
Mhm.
possible in my faith. And so it's just different. But I understand that other bodies of faith, that's not the case.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
the case. And so I don't expect people to understand why do you I don't expect you to understand that. Like I dated somebody who was not a part of my faith and they were like, "Nah, it's gotta be more to it." I was like, "No, I just literally known this person my whole life. I'm gonna respond to them in that way. We did
Yeah.
Right.
everything
Right.
together. I I'm
Y'all,
not they're
y'all
not
fooled around in
false."
the past. Y'all fooled
No.
around in the
Yeah,
past. I
yeah.
know.
I was like, "No,
Know
never,
it.
never." I
They
never
can't. They can't. Yeah. They
can't
can't understand
understand that because
that.
their faith
Right.
that didn't happen. You only saw this person on one day a week. And that's like, no, I see this person. It's probably only one day a week. I don't see this person.
Right.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, but see, what you're speaking to is the acceptance of the differences of, the different parts of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Like as a person as a part of one culture, you accept that there's going to be differences between your culture and other people's cultures. It doesn't make it
Mm-hmm.
right or wrong. It just
Right?
makes it unique, like your
Yeah.
name.
Yes.
Come on now.
And so
What?
by being able to accept the differences and the uniquenesses of other people's cultures and other people's religions, I don't think that it makes you less than, and I don't think it makes you better than anybody else because your culture is different than someone else's.
No,
I think that
absolutely not.
actually being able to embrace the differences and accept the differences actually enriches your life.
It
Because
does.
if you only know these one or two things, you're only ever going to know those one or two things. But just imagine the people who know 20 things, or we'll go back to languages. You'll have some people that can speak one language. How much
Right.
more involved and more nuanced is someone's life who speaks 5, 6,
Right. How
7,
much
8
more
languages?
valuable is that person? You
Yeah,
get what I'm saying? If
because
my
you have
language,
jobs that'll
yeah,
pay you tens of
pay you
thousands more
double,
dollars because you
double,
can speak
you
multiple
know,
languages.
right.
So
Double more people will get paid for that job.
it's things like that for most of us we don't take the time to do. We don't take the time to appreciate and understand other people's cultures. What we want to do is the things that are different or the things that are odd to us or things that are peculiar to us, we want to make
we're
fun
fearful.
of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're either fearful or we
That's
want
why
to make
you
fun of or we want to put down. And the thing about it, though, is like I said before, you lead with respect because you command it in return. For me, I'm a person of, hey, even if I offended you by accident, point it out to me so that I can learn how to be better the next time moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
I can't change what I did, but what I can do is work on making sure that I don't continue to make that same choice that'll put me in that same spot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, people who don't have the culture, and when we use it in that context, meaning that you've experienced other cultures, so you're cultured, right? That
Mm-hmm.
used to actually be something that was looked upon as a value to your social graces if you
Mm-hmm.
have been around other cultures. People looked back in the 17th century and 16th century. Those things were looked upon you as, something positive about your character if you were cultured. Oh, I've been
Mm-hmm.
here, or I've been there, or I've been with these people, and I've entertained these people, and I know these people. Those things were actually beneficial, but the way our
You were
minds
higher
were,
valued.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was, yes, you were of higher value if you were cultured. So that's why the way we've fallen away from it, that like in America, like, it's almost like some nationalism has taken over. It's like, only if you're American do I want to talk to you. No, there is culture in knowing about other people and being able to appreciate people. I was in upstate New York. I was working for a company, and we had to do a whole job in a Jewish community. So come on, growing up around Adventists, I already know what it is. You know what I mean? So I tell these people, I say, hey, when we get there, we're not going to be able to work Friday at all and Saturday at all. It's like, you guys have to know Friday, because we got there early on Friday. So we were able to work a little bit, set up our equipment. I said, we're shut down for a day and a half. I said, y'all know that, right? They like, what you talking about? I said, we're in a Jewish community. The guys came in and talked to us and explained them everything. They were like, come on, how did you know this? I'm a little cultured. I said, I know a little something about the Sabbath. And I've explained it to them, but they had no clue. And they were like, so we're going to be here longer than we thought. I said, yes, you will be.
Listen, there's a beauty that's attached to being able to experience something as it was designed to be experienced, right?
Yeah.
When you go to, we talked about steakhouses on another episode. When you go to a steakhouse and you have a Michelin star chef, a culinary artist who has a Michelin star, everything that comes out is designed to hit your palate in a particular way. And so when you alter that, I only like my meat this way. I don't want my potatoes to touch. I don't like that sauce on it. Can you swap this sauce for that sauce? Now you've altered how that was supposed to taste in your mouth.
The integrity of it. Yeah.
The integrity of the dish is compromised. It is the same when you think of cultures. When you take out or try to put in your stuff the way you thought it should be, you've altered the integrity to how you were supposed to experience that thing. I can't tell you the beauty of being able to go to a cultural experience. I think for the same class that Roger Mel was talking about for cultural exploring cultures in graduate school, cultural awareness, we had to choose a religious sector and go and worship with them. And so I chose the Jewish. I chose, I said I'm gonna go to a synagogue. The beauty was I got to go to a synagogue for just, I don't know, traditional Jewish or so I got to do Orthodox Jews and I don't want to say regular Jews, but non-Orthodox, okay?
Right.
The non-Orthodox, both of them were beautiful experiences. So much so, I was like, yo, I'm trying to come back. Somebody was about to have a bar mitzvah. I was like, yo, how do I get invited to that? That looks like that's something to be a part of. And I went, I was quiet. I didn't get to say much and participate much because I didn't know it. Like they were reading the Torah, and they were speaking in Hebrew. So I didn't get to participate. But when just my silence, the people around me said, they would tell me stuff. Okay, they're going to do this next. They're going to bring around the Torah. You say your prayers. You throw your prayers toward the Torah as it is coming towards you. They're going to get up there. They're going to sing the hymns. And here it is in the book. This is it in English so that you'll
Mhm.
know what we're saying. And I felt so honored. But I think they also felt honored to be able to share their religion in a way without having to explain it all the way. They just,
Mhm.
I allowed them to just be. So much, come back. Can you stay? I was like, this is
Right.
a class assignment, but I am honored that you guys felt comfortable enough to just welcome me in. And I think a lot more people would be honored if you took a quieter approach and just experience the culture as it was intended to be experienced.
Mhm.
Right.
No matter what, I've met Satanists to witches and warlocks. That is not my practice. Okay,
Right.
it's not my spiritual orientation. But
Right.
because I was so, I don't even want to say accommodating, because I don't think you to appreciate them does not mean
But
you
you
have
were
to be
open-minded.
accommodating or accepting of. I was
But you
not
were
Mhm.
accommodating
open-minded.
or accepting, but I was open to hearing why they believe the way that they do.
Right.
I met
Mhm.
Satanists and they told me a lot about their religion, and I was like, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That
they
was
have their
it.
own Bible. Satanists have
Yeah,
their own
I
Bible.
said that was interesting. They're very health conscious. I didn't know that Satanists were very health conscious, but they are. They appreciate their bodies. And I said I would have never known that. I would have never known that witches, like, they really do cast spells. And I said, oh, it's not just on TV. Gotcha. I thought that was just a fake thing. The lady said, no, it's real. So I developed the appreciation, but I didn't go into it trying to be a Christian. I'm Christian.
Mhm.
That's wrong. You guys are going there.
Right. Right. You
Nope.
can't
I
go in there like that.
I
Yeah.
didn't. I just said, hey, all right,
Right.
that's what you believe. Okay. Does that work for you? It does. Great. And I think that's probably one of the skills that helps me to be a great therapist, is allowing people to experience life on their terms. I tell everybody, you are the expert on you.
Mhm.
Right.
I'm just along for the ride, sweetheart.
Yep.
You teach me all about you, and I will give you my perspective on what I see.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's it. That's all I can do. Now, if you want me to dabble and sprinkle in my culture, I'm gonna lower these glasses and then sprinkle a little bit of me on there. But when them glasses are pushed back, baby, it's all you.
Yeah.
And I'm just seeing what
But
you
you-
presenting. So if you lay it out there and I give you the perspective, so what I hear you saying is, know that I'm reflecting what you giving me.
Right.
Mhm.
I'm not sprinkling unique on there. I'm just not. And so those are the stuff. I think that's a soft skill that we learn as therapists that can translate outside of
Yes.
therapy, a good soft skill for other people. Give
Yeah.
people the opportunity. We hear it in a negative way. When a person shows you who they are, believe them. But I think it's a positive. When a
It
person
is.
shows you who they are, believe and accept them for, just appreciate, not even accept, appreciate. You know what? You are very frank.
Yeah.
You are very dichotomous in your thinking. That's not
Mhm.
how
Mhm.
I like to be, right? You're very black and white.
Right.
So I know when I come to you, I'm going to have to present it black and white. There will be no color.
Well,
Okay?
and also you can use it as, hey, you might need to be a little more flexible. You're a little rigid in
No,
your thinking.
I wouldn't,
Yeah.
because I'm going to appreciate the fact that you're black and white, and so I know how to
Give
deal
it to
with you. Yeah, because when I deal with you, I'm gonna deal with you black and white. Now, if you decide to deal with me, then it's gonna be a little colorful.
Mhm.
Hey, it just is, right? When I'm talking to people who have different political beliefs than I do, I don't go about telling them you're wrong. How could you believe that way? Hey, look, this is why I believe what I believe.
Mhm.
Why do you like that? How does that benefit you? How does that benefit the people who are around you? All right, I can see that. I also know that could be a bit limiting, right? And
Yeah.
I see how my belief system could be a bit limiting to you, right?
Yeah.
I understood this when I became a business owner. I will not
Mhm.
talk about the different parties, but when I hit certain tax brackets, I said, oh,
Oh yeah, right,
Right?
right.
You white people on the other side of the fence. They fight a
Yeah,
lot harder. those karmas start to mean a lot
they want
more.
their write-offs. They
Okay?
want their write-offs. What you think
When
it wasn't?
I paid a salary in taxes, listen to what I'm saying. When my tax payment was someone's salary, I said, you know what? Next year, I'm gonna need to recoup some of that money.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna need laws that's gonna help me to keep some of that. Cause
Yeah.
I paid someone's salary in
Yeah.
taxes. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Change the way you
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to vote a little differently next year in the polls to make
Yeah.
sure that
Gosh.
my bottom line, but it's
Well,
real. I
but it's
I
Mhm.
real. That's
learned.
what happens to people. The more money they make, they start seeing things differently.
I said, you know what?
It
I can
won't be so.
appreciate.
Yeah, because my
Look,
culture never taught me that, right? My culture
I
didn't
just
teach
said
me that. They said just vote one
now.
way, and then I started investigating, and I said, "Oh, wait, wait,
Now I
this is
vote
why."
for what's going to help me be the greatest good, not just the person there.
Mhm.
And that's not about voting, but I want people who are going to provide cultural experiences and highlight cultural experiences that I think deserve a voice. And
Yeah.
so sometimes that's not a particular party, right? I want to make sure even people who are in my political party, hey, are you highlighting these smaller voices? I want the
Yeah,
smaller voices to be heard. I want them to be appreciated and not assimilated. And so I look for people who are going to be able to do that. Now I understand the culture, the country we live in. It's a system. It's one party doesn't get to make all the rules. I get that, right? But I do think that it's benefits in learning about other people,
right.
appreciating them. I have a friend from
Mhm.
Iowa. I went to Iowa. I told her I'm not coming back to Iowa. The beauty in that was when I went to Iowa, I never thought about racing on a hay bale. When I went to Iowa, I did.
Right.
I
Yeah.
raced on a hay bale because that's what they do there. That's how they have a good
That's
time.
a different type
You.
of fun.
Yeah.
I learned that if you tip a cow over, you could potentially go to jail because it's slaughter. You're killing the cow. If you push it over because it
Because it can't.
can't get back up, you could possibly be facing some jail time because you didn't kill somebody's their property one, and
Right.
Mhm.
now you've stopped their profits because it's a lot of cow farmers out there, right? You
Yeah.
got Angus is real in Iowa.
It's beef.
Yeah, so you've ruined
Dollar beef.
somebody's prop,
It's
right?
not dollar beef.
Yeah,
Man,
you ruined it. So
folks will shoot you for an Angus cow.
ain't
That's
nobody
a $5 cow.
ain't nobody pushing over cows where
Not
I
me.
live at. Okay.
No.
Hey, hey, look, if they're running up hay barrels and all that, man, being a kid, hopping trains and hopping
Yeah.
turnstiles and all that crazy stuff on the East Coast, doing stuff like that, that's stupid to them. You know what I mean? The kid, I
Yeah.
ain't want to pay. That's why I did it. The metro's expensive. Be like, I'm hopping. People, hey, I'm hip. I get it.
But
I
my
get
friend
it.
from Iowa, when we went to New York, it was a new experience. She was just
Right.
like she's used to eating 3 hearty meals every day. And I said, sis, you better get this Rice Krispie treat and chill out. She was just like, all
Yeah.
right, oh, a Rice Krispie. I need a little meat. I need some potatoes. I was like, girl,
But
you
you
gonna
better
have to wait. We about to get on the train. You
in a
like, what you trying to do? You
right.
about
You
to
just
get on this train, then you gonna have to like sleep and go to the bathroom. Like, sis,
look.
you got to eat us.
Right. Look, yeah, you got to be able to move. You got to be able to move.
Right, right.
We going to sleep.
Period.
Look,
Period.
we started out talking about cultural appreciation, man, and I think it went the right direction for those people who were out here. RJ, what
Mhm.
do you think? And I think we brought it all the way back full circle
I
on
think
why
we.
you educate
I
yourself.
definitely agree wholeheartedly. I think we did a good job of explaining it. So we're gonna stop the
We always
conversation
do.
here. This is Try Not to Overthink It signing out. I'm RJ.
I'm unique.
And I'm Khalil.
If you like what you saw, we can be found on YouTube as Try Not to Overthink It. if you would prefer to listen to the episode rather than watch it. I don't know why you
Don't do
would,
that. Don't do
because
that.
we are great looking people. We can be listened to on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Audible, pretty much everywhere you can get your audio files.
Your mama's house.
Yep, your mom's house too. So please support us, and we greatly appreciate you for taking your time to watch this episode. You guys have a great one. Peace.